We need to talk in the conference room. The text lit up my phone screen at exactly 3:14 p.m. No greeting. No context. Just a flat demand from Martin Rhodes, our general manager. I stared at it for a moment. Something about it didn't sit right. After 16 years at Prairie Ridge Market in Des Moines, Iowa, I'd grown familiar with every corridor of the store and most of the people in it. I'd received dozens of meeting requests over the years, but this one felt colder. Final. My name is Janet Holloway, and at 52, I'd become a permanent fixture in the store's operations. I started as a part-time cashier when my son was in high school and slowly worked my way up to senior logistics coordinator. I'd trained nearly every shift supervisor on staff, overhauled our inventory tracking system to reduce spoilage by 21%, and built vendor relationships that saved the company tens of thousands each quarter. So when I got that message, I locked my office, straightened my cardigan, and walked calmly toward the conference room. I passed Darren from Produce, who flashed a grin as he boxed up late-season cherries. We'd recently piloted a waste reduction program that helped his department meet its quarterly numbers for the first time in 2 years. The conference room door was closed. That alone was odd. We usually left it open to signal transparency. I knocked once and walked in. Martin was standing stiffly by the window, arms crossed. Angela from HR was seated at the table, expression unreadable. A manila folder lay between them. "Please have a seat," Martin said without looking up. At 39, Martin had been brought in about 18 months earlier as part of the company's so-called next-generation leadership initiative. He liked to use phrases like synergy and value recalibration. I sat, folded my hands. "Is something wrong?" Martin turned corporate mask firmly in place. "After reviewing our regional structure, we've determined that your position no longer aligns with our strategic goals." Angela slid the folder toward me. "Your salary exceeds the current operational benchmark," she added softly. "We're letting you go." My mind blanked. "But my last evaluation was excellent. I just received a commendation 2 weeks ago." "The decision has been made," Martin replied briskly. "Your system access has been disabled. Angela will walk you through the exit process." The room suddenly felt smaller, warmer. My 16 years of sacrifice, of missed holidays, of fixing overnight stockroom meltdowns, reduced to 5 minutes in a folder. Still, as I looked at Martin, avoiding my gaze, fingers twitching against his cuff, a calm washed over me. He had no idea what I knew. I signed the form, smiled faintly, and said, "Thank you for the opportunity." Then I stood and walked out. Monday was coming, and it would be unforgettable. Then I walked out, leaving Martin looking visibly relieved that I hadn't caused a scene. He had no idea what Monday would bring, because 2 weeks earlier, I had received a surprising email. It was from Rachel Sims, Vice President of Regional Operations at Prairie Ridge Holdings. Subject: opportunity to discuss your future with Prairie Ridge. I had assumed it was about the supply chain audit I completed last quarter. My overhaul had quietly saved over $480,000 annually, and the model was being replicated in 3 other stores across the Midwest. But when I arrived at the corporate headquarters in downtown Chicago, it wasn't just Rachel waiting for me. Frank Delaney, the Chief Operations Officer, was also in the room. "Janet," Rachel said, warmly, gesturing toward the chair across from them. "We've been following your work for quite a while." I blinked, surprised. "You have?" Frank nodded. "The efficiency improvements. At Store 82, the vendor relationships you've maintained, the cross-departmental training modules you wrote, all while maintaining the lowest employee turnover rate in your district. I'd never seen myself as exceptional, just practical. I treated people fairly. I didn't micromanage. When a system didn't make sense, I fixed it. That's all. But apparently, that was everything." "We're restructuring our regional leadership," Rachel continued, "and we need someone with operational expertise and emotional intelligence. Someone who's walked the floor, solved real problems, not just stared at them from a spreadsheet." She slid a folder across the table. "We'd like to offer you the role of Regional Director, Upper Midwest. You'd oversee 12 stores across Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, including Des Moines." My breath caught as I opened the folder. The job description was detailed. The salary was nearly double what I'd been earning. Full relocation package, corporate housing in Chicago, travel covered, a seat at the quarterly strategy table. And then Rachel added almost casually, "You'd also directly supervise all current general managers in your region." Frank finished for her, including Martin Rhodes. I looked up. Their eyes said everything they knew. Martin's pattern of forcing out seasoned employees hadn't gone unnoticed. "We've seen how he operates," Frank said quietly, "and we've seen how you do." The difference he didn't have to say spoke for itself. "When do you need an answer?" I asked, still stunned. "Take the weekend," Rachel replied, "but we'd love for you to start by the first Monday of next month." As I walked back to the hotel that afternoon, offer folder in hand, a quiet confidence settled over me. Martin thought today was the end of my career. He had no idea it was just the beginning of his accountability. "The regional office is here in Chicago, but you'll be traveling to all 12 locations on a rotating basis," Rachel had explained. I drove back to Des Moines that evening, the official offer letter resting securely in my tote bag. The city lights blurred past my windshield, but I wasn't distracted. I was grounded, focused. A quiet swell of pride and vindication filled my chest like breath after resurfacing. After 16 years of keeping the engine running behind the scenes, of letting others take the credit while I kept us compliant, efficient, and fully staffed, someone had finally noticed. That night, I called my son Evan, who now lived out in Colorado. They offered me the regional director position. I said, still unsure if I believed it myself. He didn't hesitate. "Take it, Mom. It's long overdue." The following Monday, I officially accepted the offer, asking for a 2-week transition period to finish key projects at Store 82. Rachel agreed, but reminded me of the confidentiality. "We'll announce it company-wide next Friday," she said. "Until then, business as usual." So I kept the routine. I reviewed inventory logs, conducted vendor check-ins, trained new hires. I even stayed late to help Martin polish his quarterly report, ensuring the numbers aligned with district projections. He seemed almost thrown by my willingness to help, but something shifted in him. I caught him twice, standing by the shared printer, quietly flipping through pages from my email threads with suppliers. Another time, Miranda from accounts told me in a hushed voice, "He asked about your expense reports. Said he's reviewing high-cost approvals." He was fishing. Martin had slowly purged the experienced employees one by one. Dennis from backroom logistics, gone after 20 years. Sharon from customer relations, forced into early retirement via a PIP that made her cry in the break room. I was the last one left. My long tenure and senior pay. An easy red mark in the eyes of someone trying to look efficient to corporate. But what Martin didn't know was that corporate already had his number. On Wednesday, I received an embossed envelope with my full offer package, welcome note, and benefits binder. My official start date, Monday. That same afternoon, I spotted Martin in a closed-door meeting with Angela from HR. They both emerged pale-faced and tense. By Thursday morning, the conference room had been booked for a 2 p.m. personnel adjustment meeting. At 1:57 p.m., I got the text from Martin. And if you want to see what happens when quiet strength meets real power, hit that subscribe button. Janet's story isn't over, and neither is yours. Need to see you. Conference room. As I calmly cleaned out my desk, just enough to avoid coming back for it, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. For more than a decade, I had sacrificed weekends, holidays, even birthday dinners to keep this place afloat. Martin thought he was closing my chapter. But Monday would tell a very different story. And while being dismissed so abruptly stung, I knew my journey with Prairie Ridge wasn't ending. It was only expanding. I handed my keys to Angela, who still couldn't quite meet my eyes. Her professionalism wavered as she folded my final checklist. "Is there anything you'd like to say for the record?" she asked, her voice even, but tight. I thought about telling her the truth, about the offer letter tucked inside my leather portfolio in the trunk of my car, about the corporate apartment I just secured in Chicago's River North District, just blocks from the regional office, about how come Monday I'd step into a role where Martin Rhodes would be reporting to me. But instead, I simply smiled. "No," I said, "I think everything will become clear Very soon. I walked out of Store 82 not as a fired employee, but as the incoming regional director for the Upper Midwest. Martin just didn't know it yet. Friday morning, I woke up without an alarm for the first time in years. No 4:45 a.m. prep for produce deliveries. No early shift coverage due to a no-show. Just me, my second cup of black coffee, and a quiet Iowa sunrise flooding the porch in warm amber light. My phone buzzed with messages before 8 a.m. "This is insane," wrote Darren from Produce. "He really let you go. Store won't run a week without you," Miranda added. Everyone's rattled. Martin made a huge mistake. I thanked them both, keeping my replies short and warm. I didn't say anything about the new role not yet. The official announcement was scheduled for midday, at exactly 12:03 p.m. My phone rang again. This time, it was Evan, my son. "Mom?" "I just saw the group email," he said, almost breathless. "Regional director." "That's incredible," I chuckled. "So the cat's officially out of the bag." "After all those years," he said. "Martin must be sweating bricks." I laughed again, but I didn't gloat. Let's not dwell on him. I want to focus on what's ahead. As we hung up, another call came through, this one from Rachel Sims, my new VP. "Janet," she said warmly, "just giving you a heads up. The announcement hit harder than we expected. There's quite a stir over at Store 82. I let the words settle in. I could picture Martin's face flipping through the email twice, just to be sure. The same woman he'd escorted out of the building was now listed as his new direct supervisor. "I'm ready for Monday," I told Rachel. And I meant it. Let the new chapter begin. I felt a flutter of anticipation. "I imagine it would," I said to Rachel, trying to keep my voice measured. She continued. "Martin Rhodes called our office within 5 minutes of the announcement, claimed it had to be a clerical error. When our executive assistant confirmed the appointment," she added, well, let's just say he wasn't thrilled." I could picture it vividly. The same man who dismissed me less than 48 hours earlier, now realizing I would be his direct supervisor starting Monday. Confusion. Denial. Then that dawning look of pure panic. "Is there anything you need me to do in the meantime?" I asked, maintaining professionalism. "Nothing at all," Rachel said. "We've instructed him to prepare a full store operations report for your first visit Monday morning. The other general managers are already reaching out to schedule their welcome calls." After we hung up, I checked my personal email. There it was. Subject line, leadership announcement, Janet Holloway appointed Regional Director, Upper Midwest. Attached was the official internal release from Prairie Ridge. Holding circulated company-wide, Janet Holloway brings 16 years of outstanding operational experience to this position, most recently serving as Senior Logistics Coordinator at Store 82 in Des Moines. In her new role, she will oversee 12 locations across Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin, focusing on operational alignment, staff development, and performance improvement across the region. Within minutes, my phone lit up with messages from past and current colleagues. "You earned this." Martin's pacing his office like a caged animal. Angela from HR hasn't made eye contact with anyone all morning. One message from Miranda in accounting simply read, "Poetic." I smiled and set my phone aside. It was time to pack. I had a weekend trip to Chicago ahead. My new corporate apartment wasn't furnished, and my wardrobe still looks like it belonged in the breakroom stock closet. Despite 16 years of leadership, I'd never owned a fitted blazer. I'd never needed one. My job had always been boots on the floor, clipboard in hand work. But that was about to change. On Saturday, I drove to the city. My new apartment, modest but stylish, was tucked into a high-rise downtown with a view of the river and enough space to feel like a fresh start. I spent the day buying essentials, cookware, a coffee machine, and office supplies. At a boutique off Michigan Avenue, a sales associate named Melanie helped me find my first real executive wardrobe. "Regional Director," she repeated. "We need you in something smart, classic, but commanding." She handed me a burgundy blazer and stepped back as I turned toward the mirror. It was perfect. I didn't just look like I belonged. I looked like I was ready to lead. "You look like someone who makes decisions that matter." Melanie's words echoed in my mind as I turned toward the full-length mirror. I barely recognized the woman staring back. Gone were the khakis and company-issued polo. My hair was no longer pulled into a utilitarian bun. I wore a deep burgundy blazer over a cream blouse, clean-lined and tailored. A soft sweep of mascara. Subtle lipstick. Confident posture. "I'll take this one," I said. And the navy. And the charcoal. By evening, I had transformed not only my wardrobe, but also my apartment and my mindset. I sat at my small dining table, the Chicago skyline glowing behind me, and opened the latest regional performance reports Rachel had sent. Store 82, my old post in Des Moines, was still profitable, but cracks were showing rising staff turnover, slipping customer satisfaction, and a bump in inventory loss. All familiar patterns. They reflected Martin Rhodes' style, demanding results without support, pushing change without listening, and prioritizing budget optics over people. My phone rang. It was a Des Moines number I didn't recognize. "Janet Holloway," I answered. "Janet, it's Angela Harper from HR at Store 82. Her voice carried a strain I hadn't heard during our last interaction. "Hello, Angela," I replied evenly, recalling her sitting silently beside Martin as he terminated me. I wanted to apologize about Thursday," she said. "I didn't know about your promotion. None of us did. I understand. You were doing your job." "Yes, but—" She hesitated. "If we had known you were about to become regional director, would that have changed how it was handled?" The question wasn't accusatory, just honest. Her pause answered it for me. "Monday will be a fresh start," I said calmly. "I'm looking forward to working with you in a new capacity." "Of course," she said quickly. "Martin's called an emergency meeting for Sunday. He's quite concerned about making a good impression." I smiled slightly, imagining him pacing the break room printing reports, coaching his team on how to manage my arrival. "There's no need for special preparation," I assured her. "I know Store 82 better than anyone. My goal isn't to intimidate, it's to elevate." After we hung up, a text came from an unfamiliar number. "This is Martin Rhodes. Can we meet before Monday to discuss the transition?" I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to leave him waiting. Let the discomfort marinate a bit longer. But that's not the leader I intend to be. "Good evening, Martin," I typed. "I've scheduled one-on-one meetings with all GMs next week. Your first Monday at 9 a.m., please come prepared with your quarterly report, staffing review, and operational forecast." I hit send and closed my laptop. Leadership begins now. Regional operations. Please prepare the quarterly performance overview, staffing assessments, and loss prevention reports. See you then. Professional. Clear. No hint of resentment, no triumph in the tone, though inside I could feel the vindication humming beneath the surface. I put my phone away and turned back to the regional analytics dashboard. Success, I reminded myself, would be the only revenge I needed. Not just for me, but for every long-serving team member who'd been pushed aside, minimized, or erased. My mission wasn't about payback. It was about restoring what Martin had hollowed out. Sunday evening, as I laid out my outfit for the next morning, the phone rang. It was Rachel Sims. "How are you feeling about tomorrow?" she asked. "Prepared?" I answered truthfully. "I've reviewed the regional data and highlighted key improvement opportunities store by store." "That's why we hired you," Rachel said warmly. "But let me ask you something. Off the record, how do you feel about returning to Store 82 specifically? About facing Martin?" I paused, thinking about the weekend updates I'd received from Miranda and Darren. Emergency staff huddles, a rushed facility cleaning. And most amusing of all, Martin allegedly asking HR to help retroactively justify my termination in writing. "I'm not walking in to settle a score," I said at last. Martin made the decisions he thought served his interests. "Now it's my job to make decisions that serve Prairie Ridge's people." Rachel chuckled. "Very diplomatic, Janet. Still, it must feel satisfying." I allowed myself a small smile. "There's a certain poetic justice." "Yes." After we hung up, I laid out my new outfit, the burgundy blazer cream blouse, tailored black pants, and the leather heels I'd never needed when I was unloading stock at 6 a.m. This wasn't armor. It was clarity. As I climbed into bed, a text from Evan popped up. "Knock 'em dead tomorrow, Mom." You've earned every second of this. I slept better than I had in months. Monday morning fog clung to the river as I pulled onto I-80 westbound. Despite minor traffic near the outskirts of Des Moines, I arrived at Store 82 10 minutes early. This time, I parked in the visitor section, not in my old spot tucked beside receiving. I stepped out, portfolio in hand heels, steady on the sidewalk. Inside through the front windows, I could already see them staff glancing out, whispering, gesturing. Some with curiosity, some with recognition, but all with awareness. Janet Holloway was back. And this time, she wasn't just here to help, she was here to lead. Turnover rates at Store 82 under your leadership, I said, sliding the first chart across the table. A 41% spike in just under 14 months, primarily among staff with more than 10 years of service. Martin shifted uncomfortably in his seat. We've been restructuring, he offered weakly. Restructuring doesn't usually result in losing your most experienced employees weeks before the holiday rush, I replied. I pulled out another document. Nor does it explain why customer satisfaction scores have dropped 15 points in the last 6 quarters. His eyes darted toward the door, like he was checking for an escape route. I leaned forward, calm but firm. Prairie Ridge values leadership that builds teams, not dismantles them. That nurtures potential, rather than discards loyalty when it becomes inconvenient or too expensive. I closed my leather portfolio deliberately. You have 2 options, Martin. You can submit your resignation today with standard severance. He opened his mouth slightly. Or you can enroll in a structured improvement plan under my direct supervision, weekly check-ins, clear benchmarks, and transparent accountability. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. It was the same type of plan he'd used to push out Sharon from customer service last spring. Martin swallowed, his voice barely audible. I'd like to take the second option. I gave a neutral nod. Then we have a great deal of work ahead. Over the following month, I split my time across the 12 locations I now oversaw, but I gave Store 82 special attention. Martin struggled under the new expectations. Transparency, team input, collaborative goals. These were foreign concepts to someone who had ruled through quiet intimidation and one-sided memos. During our weekly meetings, I never raised my voice. But I didn't pull punches either. Your team doesn't trust you, I told him one Friday. Trust is built with honesty, consistency, and support, not fear and silence. He nodded stiffly, eyes on his notebook. Do you understand that I asked? I do, he muttered. Understanding takes empathy, Martin. I said, not unkindly. It means recognizing that every person on your team matters, that their voices have weight, and we acted accordingly. I brought Dennis back to manage warehouse operations, his 20 years of knowledge irreplaceable. Sharon returned too this time as a training mentor for new hires. I also launched anonymous feedback channels across the region so employees could speak freely without fear of retaliation. Throughout it all, I kept it professional. I never mentioned the past, never hinted at his role in my firing. I wasn't here to settle a score. I was here to fix what he broke. A week after Martin's departure, I hosted my first roundtable with the general managers across the upper Midwest region. 12 stores, 12 leaders, some nervous, others skeptical, but most curious. We met virtually, cameras on faces familiar, but newly recalibrated under my watch. Let me be clear, I told them, hands folded on the polished conference table in Chicago, HQ. I'm not here to micromanage. I'm here to partner, to elevate what works and address what doesn't. Together. There was a beat of silence, then a series of nods. I could feel it, the shift. Not overnight, not seismic, but real. That afternoon, I received a call from Lila Thornton, GM of our Minneapolis location. She'd been with Prairie Ridge nearly as long as I had, and under Martin's predecessor, she'd been all but invisible. Janet, she said, her voice cautious, I just wanted to say thank you for leading the way you do, for actually seeing us. I've been where you are, I said, and no one does their best work under a spotlight that only turns on when something breaks. We spoke for 20 minutes, and not about KPIs or year-end goals, but about her team, their challenges, their wins, their fears. And I realized something then. What Martin had broken wasn't just numbers. It was trust. And what I was rebuilding wasn't just morale, it was community. Later that week, I returned to Des Moines for a surprise walkthrough of Store 82. Jaime was on the floor reviewing restocks with a new team lead. He didn't notice me at first, too focused on explaining how to adjust inventory logs in real time. When he finally turned, he smiled wide. "Didn't expect to see you today, Janet." "Exactly why I came," I said with a grin. I spoke with employees, watched customer interactions, checked the back room. Everything hummed not perfectly, but purposefully. Before leaving, I pulled Jaime aside. "You're doing good work here," I told him. "Trying my best," he said humbly. "Keep doing just that. Prairie Ridge needs more of it." That night back in Chicago, I sat on my small balcony with a cup of tea. The skyline sparkled. The river moved steadily below. I thought about how easily I could have walked away after that conference room meeting, but instead, I'd stayed. To lead, to fix, to protect the people who rarely got credit but always held everything together. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about legacy. "I'd like to tender my resignation," Martin said, sliding a sealed envelope across my desk. "I've accepted a position with another company. I accepted the envelope without opening it." "I wish you success in your new role," I replied evenly. "That's it?" he asked after a beat, his voice laced with something between surprise and disappointment. "Did you expect something more dramatic?" I asked, allowing the faintest smile to cross my lips. He shifted in his seat, a flush rising to his neck. "No, I just thank you for the opportunity to improve, even if I didn't ultimately succeed." "Growth isn't linear," Martin, I said, "but reflection is part of the process. Hopefully this experience informs how you lead in the future." He gave a small nod and rose to his feet, his posture quieter than when he'd walked in. As he left my office, shoulders slightly slumped, I didn't feel victorious. I felt the quiet satisfaction of a system realigning itself. The next day, I submitted my recommendation for interim general manager at Store 82 Jaime Pollard, formerly head of electronics. His department had consistently ranked highest in internal satisfaction surveys, and his team's retention was unmatched. But it was his presence, steady, empathetic, and clear, that made him the right choice. "Are you sure I'm ready for this?" Jaime asked when I delivered the news. "I've been watching you for years," I told him. "You lead with integrity. You listen first. You respect your team and still meet every target thrown at you. That's exactly what Store 82 needs right now." He didn't smile right away. He nodded, eyes sharp with purpose. "Then I'll give it everything I've got." 2 months into my new role, all 12 regional stores had shown improvement in at least one key metric: inventory, staffing, or customer satisfaction. But none had changed as dramatically as Store 82. With Jaime at the helm, employee morale climbed. Turnover slowed. Feedback came in, not just positive, but personal. Customers noticed. So did corporate. I never needed Martin to say he'd been wrong. The results said it for him. As I sat in my office overlooking the Chicago River, I found myself reflecting on the path that brought me here. 16 years of service, one abrupt dismissal, and now a position where I could ensure no one else would be cast aside when they had the most to give. The real revenge wasn't watching Martin walk out. It was rebuilding what he broke better, stronger, and more human. It was proving that leadership isn't about control. It's about care. And that's a victory worth savoring. If you've ever poured your heart into a job, stayed late, missed family dinners, held everything together behind the scenes only to be overlooked or pushed out, then you understand my story more than anyone. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back to prove that quiet leadership still matters, that you don't have to shout to be heard, that the best kind of power isn't taken, it's earned through consistency, care, and courage. If you believe in building workplaces that value wisdom over ego, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below. Tell me your story. Tell me what you would have said in that conference room. Or better yet, what you've already overcome. And if you've ever been in my shoes, undervalued, underestimated, or forced out for doing the right thing, remember this. Your worth is not defined by a title or a manager's approval. It's written in the way people remember your presence after you leave. Support stories like mine. Like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and don't forget to subscribe so we can keep bringing stories of resilience and quiet justice to light. Because sometimes, the most powerful voice in the room is the one that never had to raise itself.